Next quarterback is Michael Penix Jr., number 8 overall pick. And our friend Zach Robinson running the show there for Atlanta. I don't know if Zach was calling plays. They usually don't have the OC call plays during the preseason. But what are your thoughts on Penix early on?
Preseason for everybody, including the play caller.
Yeah, ease into it.
Yeah, so I thought he was interesting. The most obvious thing about his playing time is when Miami gave them single coverage on the outside, he just pulled the trigger. It was like an auto, it's like, remember when back in the day where Tyreek Hill created that out of Alex Smith. If you got one-on-one with Tyreek Hill on the outside, even Alex Smith was just putting the ball in the air and going, yep, I'll take that. Michael Penix was doing that. If Miami gave them single coverage on the outside, he was just taking a shot. And at least one of them was a really nice pass. One of them, I think he overthrew a little bit, but that was aggressive from him. Ball location, I thought, was a bit inconsistent. Like, there were a couple where I was giving him the benefit of the doubt and saying maybe he was trying to stop a guy rather than, lead him into another defender, and that's why it was sort of back shoulder. But I think overall it was a little bit spotty and not necessarily, bang on the money every single time. So he was doing a lot of, whereas Caleb Williams, I think, demonstrated a fairly good, consistent ability to work through a progression and rule out throws quite quickly. Michael Penix's reading, I think, was a lot more pre-snap and the high-low either-or decision-making that we were talking about earlier, where he was just taking a look at a concept and deciding which part of the concept to take a shot at, rather than rule out, hit this one.
And there are different ways of doing that, right? You can be good enough pre-snap where
right,
if they're in this coverage, this is where the read goes, which is different from making the full field read after the snap, right? Those are two different ways of, because I thought he was decisive at hitting those first reads, right? Which is, kind of what you're saying as well here. Anything else on?
No, I think you're right. He was sort of quick and efficient at knowing where he was going with the football.
Yeah.
It was just a different style and mechanism than the way Caleb Williams is doing it.
So completely agree. Every time they saw press, pretty much he was chucking it down the field.
Yeah.
There was a 3rd and 2 early on. He overthrows a deep ball. Like, they were taking downfield shots. You have the one that became the highlight reel, which was in stride, but he was 1 for 3 throwing the go ball
and
down
I think
the field.
The overthrown one was the one where he manipulated the safety, or at least held the safety. So there was a safety that was sort of pre-snap was ambiguous whether or not that was man coverage, true one-on-one on the outside. When he took that shot, and this might have been why it was off target slightly, or at least folded into that, he held that safety with his eyes and made sure that guy could not go over and help, then took the one-on-one shot on the outside, overthrew it slightly, and didn't get a completion. But I think that's a good sign as well, right? Not only is he able to identify the one-on-one coverage, he's able to identify something that could be one-on-one if he's able to influence it and make sure that safety doesn't get involved and executes that part well. Just needed the completion at the end of it.
Ball location was off on a couple. 2 in particular were the intermediate stick routes outside the numbers. They were off. He overthrew a check down. I like how he reset his feet, got to a backside dig route. I love when they get to a backside dig route, Sam. I love that. But I thought overall Penix's comfort level was very good. I don't think he looked overwhelmed whatsoever. The one thing about the aesthetics of watching him throw is his front arm drives me nuts a little bit. And this isn't, by the way, I completely disagree with those who think that lefty throwers look different and that if you just flip them around, it changes. I
think you're out of your mind.
That's an absurd statement. I mean, I grew up, my favorite player of all time was left-handed, and it looked beautiful and had nothing to do with him. Like, Mark Brunell's throwing motion was a thing of beauty.
There was a play-action play here that's like a routine concept, and I couldn't wrap my head around why it looked weird until I realized that it was a left-handed quarterback, so he's dropping back. Like, his play-action looked different because he was left-handed.
I don't even know. Like, this was never even a thing. When Brunell was in the league, and, the Mark Brunell light, Steve Young was in the league, and Michael Vick came into the league. They were like, oh, man, I mean, if he just threw a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, let's just flip the video. So this became like a Tua-only thing.
No. But this one, I think, the play action, because I think a right-handed quarterback is turning the other way, right? Like, it's the classic, like, old-school play action where the guy's taking it from under center, turning around, like doing the full extension thing, tucking it back, like, and then from the bottom of the pocket, turning and hitting a sideline throw. But Penix, because he's left-handed, is turning the whole other way and it's almost looking like a bootleg that stops up short.
That's a
and
Sam
it's like
problem.
he's hitting because it's like he's like almost bootlegging out to the left and then hitting the right sideline. I'm like, nobody ever does that. It's because it's not a bootleg.
Was
He's
that
just turned the other way.
comeback that he overthrew that he missed?
No, he hit this one on the sideline, I think. But it's because it's not actually a bootleg. It's just he's turned the opposite way that a right-handed quarterback would to execute the play action fake.
Okay. More so, Penix's throwing motion. His front arm bothers me a little bit. It's really tight to his body. It's really tight. It's not as stable, and it feels like that might lead to some of the inaccuracy problems.
Okay. You normally hate diving into throwing mechanics.
I do, but the front arm is something that is so important as it's like a lever. It's like a balancing act for your arm, and it just gives you a little bit of leeway, so you don't have to be as precise, because your goal is to get the hands to a specific spot for the release, right? And this helps the front arm balances a little bit. I'll just say the other guy who had an obnoxious front arm for different reasons
Obnoxious front arm.
was Blake Bortles. Obnoxious front arm, inconsistent front arm, and Penix is just really tight to his body. He's really tight. He's like a T-Rex front arm, you know? And I don't know if that was affecting his accuracy.
Okay.
I mean, it's always been there. It was there during the draft process.
always been there.
Sometimes it pops a little bit more. It stands out a little bit more.
He's always had a front arm.
He's always had a front arm. Always had a front arm. I mean, this is the type of insight you're going to get on Check the Mic.
Well, this feels like the kind of thing where I don't want to accuse you of being inconsistent at all, but maybe you do care about mechanics, but only when it shows up as a problem.
No.
So when a quarterback has janky mechanics, but he's able to get the ball where it's supposed to be every time, who cares?
That's correct.
Like Jim Furyk and his golf swing.
Right.
It's ridiculous, but it worked.
Because these two things don't make sense. You cannot say, Christian Hackenberg has good mechanics when he doesn't throw the ball accurately. Because the whole point of mechanics, the whole point of moving my legs and my hips and my arm is to get the ball in my hand to a release point to throw the ball accurately. So you can't tell me he has good movement of his body if his arm doesn't get to the spot to throw the ball properly. You can't tell me that. You can't tell me Phillip Rivers has bad mechanics if his hand always gets to the right spot.
Is that true though? Like, can you not have excellent mechanics, but where the accuracy breaks down is not, it's not a mechanical problem. You've misjudged the velocity and the direction that you need to actually. It's a mental problem. Like, because targeting is not a mechanic thing, right? Well, it is. Targeting can
that's
be
like
both
a vision thing.
Yeah, targeting can be both. It requires two parts, right? Where is the actual target? Have you correctly identified visually where you need to throw the football? And then can you get the football to the spot that you're trying to hit it? But maybe the second part for Christian Hackenberg is like dead on. It's just that the guy can actually identify where the target should be every time.
If you can clearly diagnose that. I don't want to get into it too much, but yeah. I'm just saying I think that could, now when it's problematic, I'm saying I think that could be a reason for some of the inconsistency that we saw the other day.
Okay.
Overall, very impressed with Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, I thought he looked good.